And Mo keeps on cutting in and out. Bro, is it your internet? You need to fix up. Look sharp. Right. Whilst Mo sorts himself out, and I'll let him back in now. What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Day One Mentality podcast, where we talk about the number one thing that has the ability to make or break your dream, your mentality. My name is D. I'm a pilot. His name is Mo. He's a steady athlete, a fitness coach. This is episode 25 of the Day One Mentality podcast. That's a quarter century of episodes. And today we want to have probably, I think, one of the most important conversations that we could possibly have about inner dialogue or inner self-talk, however you want to phrase it. But before we do, Mo, how's it going, man?
It's going very well, thank you. I'm at the moment in Holland.
This guy, you're always traveling, man.
What can I say? And I'm not even a pilot. Imagine if I was a pilot, bro.
Wow. So you've got that money. So why are you not sponsoring me? Because you clearly have enough money to be traveling around all the time.
Yeah, but if I would have to choose between sponsoring you and me doing my traveling. So I think it's an easy answer, bro.
Wow. What's Holland like? How's it going there?
Bro, Holland is very flat, but it's usually it's quite cold, but it's nice weather, you know. I used to live here for 7 years, so it's nice feeling to be back for a while.
Nice. And what's the occasion?
I'm going for a wedding,
Bro,
bro.
is there something you need to tell us?
Not yet. Nothing. No, bro. I'm in this stage where all my mates and friends around me are getting married and stuff. So it's making me feel a little bit old, you know.
And most importantly, how many cows and goats were given for the marriage?
No, not many, bro. 120 horses,
I would
100
expect
cows.
no less from a rich guy like you.
Could be more. Can always be more.
Oh, I tell you what, there's no limit, man. Life is on levels. That's one thing. It's something but every time when you actually experience it, it hits
Mhm.
you. It's like life is on levels. You're worried about like making your rent, and somebody else is worried about like spending hundreds of thousands on like, I don't know, makeup or something.
Yeah, it is
It's
actually true.
crazy.
If you
It's
want,
crazy.
you can be stressed all the time. It doesn't matter how comfortable you are, right?
Yeah.
It's on you, all the stress and pressure.
But
Yeah.
I like what Joe Rogan says. He says like no matter what level of life you're in, the hardest thing you've ever faced is still the hardest thing you've ever faced.
Mm. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
some people, that might mean like not knowing where food is going to come from tomorrow. For some people,
Yeah.
that might mean like, I broke my nail. But
Yeah.
like the hardest thing you've ever faced is still the hardest thing you've ever faced.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. But life is very much lived on levels. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Welcome to the chat. We're going to have a very important conversation today, and hopefully you can take part because we want to hear your thoughts and we want to hear your ideas. All right, Mr. Mo, what do you want to talk about, man?
We're gonna be talking about the inner dialogue. The inner dialogue. Like how because we all different, but like inside of us, the way we communicate to ourselves is completely different as well. It's like a new world. And and I'm really curious to hear about you, T, and other people to and understand how do you guys interact with yourself, like in your brain? How do you communicate with yourself? Are you too positive? Are you too negative? What things do you do? And and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, man, I think that's an important conversation. And especially one of the things I really love is we go, Happy New Year, yay, Happy New Year. I've got some goals, some aspirations for this year. I want to hit some targets. I want to achieve some things this year. And then we go to January, then February, then March, then April, then May. Oh, wow. And then you kind of get lost into the year.
Yeah.
And so I really love the idea of kind of reinventing yourself
Mhm.
within the same year, and that's why the title is Same Year, New You, not New
Mhm.
Year, New You. Like the idea that you can at any point decide to reinvent yourself, and it's based on what you're talking about, which is your inner dialogue. And I enjoy having to reinvent myself,
Mhm.
right? I think it's a very powerful thing to be able to do. But of course, before you can change that inner dialogue, you first have to recognize it and notice the impact that it's having. So,
Yeah. I like to I like to approach it in this way of like there is I believe there is a strong correlation between the inner dialogue and your success. Um, in a way of like we have heard a lot of time of like you can do whatever you want, and if you dream it, you can create it and stuff. But it's not as easy as saying it that way. It requires a lot of work inside of you to understand yourself, um, and that's why it's so interesting in a way.
isn't it frustrating though? I know it is for me, because sometimes, remember, so you're your own person, and then you have
Mhm.
your inner dialogue in your head, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you have people who are external to you, and
Hmm.
sometimes I'm the person, sometimes I'm external to the person, and I'm talking to the person,
Yeah,
and I can literally see you have everything to achieve this,
yeah,
but you're literally talking yourself out of the results that you want,
yeah.
right? And it's like, oh, I wish I could shake you and like crack open your brain, put a new idea, put some water, and like so it can actually grow in some nutrients, and then put your head back together, and then hopefully that idea actually takes root, because it's like you can so do this, but you're just talking yourself out. I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too this, I'm not confident, I'm that, I'm not fast enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not this, that, and the third. And it's like canceling out your own progress. And obviously, it's so easy to notice it when it's the other person doing it, right? Because it's a lot easier to judge other people than it is to judge ourselves. But yeah, sometimes it's frustrating when you
Yeah.
see that, because you're like, you've got the potential, you've literally got what it takes. Just go for it. Stop holding back. And like you're saying, that inner dialogue, we see it very clearly when it's other people. We can see like literally it's just the inner dialogue that's um, that's preventing them from actually going from it.
And it's
And the truth is that it applies to us as well. But when it applies to us, we make our excuses so real. That inner dialogue seems so real that we think we're right.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's funny because um your inner talk or your inner dialogue can be the biggest hater you would ever face in your entire life. Like it's unreal. It can be the worst one. It will come in the worst situations when you don't need to hear those things from how you did it or what thing that you should have done, and it was too late already, and it creates unnecessary personal judgments, and and is definitely the worst hater that you will ever face in your entire life. And
100%. And
It's
there's a quote. There's a quote by Les Brown says this. Apparently, it's an African quote, an old
Mhm,
African quote. Um, if there's no enemy within, the
mhm,
enemy outside can do you no harm.
mm,
Right? When there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm. Yeah. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Aileron Abbey, who has joined us today. Thank you very much. Afternoon, preach, guilty, Your Honor. Yeah, we're all guilty, Abby. We're all guilty, but it's powerful when you're able to accept that and then, make the changes to that. So more power to you. And finally, it's like you need to give yourself your own CBT 100%. And my thing is like, this is all we have. This body,
mhm,
this mind, this brain, these abilities that's built it, that's all you have. And so for me, this is the reason why I love psychology and I love studying myself, understanding people, is because at the end of the day, this is all the equipment you're going to get. And if you're going to achieve whatever dreams you have to achieve, then you're going to have to understand how to maximize this equipment. And a big part of that is mastering the inner dialogue.
mhm. And why is it? Why would you say that is so important in a way of like to solve this a problem that you might have, to solve the problem of inner dialogue, not being able to control it or to manage it.
So, starting from the beginning, right? You have a dream. I have a dream. We have a
Mhm,
goal that we want to achieve.
mhm,
And that dream, that goal is there because it will bring a certain level of satisfaction, a certain level, a certain feeling of accomplishment, a certain feeling that life is worth it, a certain adventure, a certain excitement to life. It brings a certain vitality to your
mhm,
life, right? And the thing is, when you're in a dialogue, I love how Jim Rohn says it. He says, your income will not far exceed your level of personal development. If you're if your personal development is here, personal development, and your income is here, over time, it will do that,
mhm,
right? And so your inner dialogue has a direct impact on the actions you take, the actions you don't take, the questions you ask, the questions you don't
mm,
ask, how you present yourself, the feeling you give people when you're around them, the feeling you don't give people when you're around them. Um, and that will have an impact. The way you present yourself, all of that will be dictated, will be determined by your inner dialogue. And then what we usually have is then this tension, right? This tension between what we want to be and what we are. This tension between where we want to get to and where we are now, right? And the truth is, you can change external things,
mm,
but unless you change the internal things, then it's just not going to happen. And that's what life shows us in many different cases, right? You take people who are poor, for example, they win the lottery, they get millions. What happens a few years later?
they will
In
probably,
debt.
yeah.
Usually they're in debt. Check it out, research it. Usually they're like in debt, unless because you can change the external, but if you don't change the internal to rise to the level, then it will just collapse. And then what happens to our dreams? What happens to my dream of becoming a pilot? I have to develop the mindset of an airline pilot before I ever become an airline pilot.
Mhm,
You have to develop the mindset of a sports therapist before you can become a sports therapist. You need to develop the mindset of a person who runs a rehabilitation clinic or whatever you're trying to build before you become it. And the
mhm,
one thing that can stop you is your mentality, and that's why we're talking about it. Yeah.
yeah. Once again, the a strong correlation between inner dialogue and what you want to achieve. In a way of like, we have spoken about this already. Thoughts leads to actions, actions to results, and the results is what gonna define the reality that we're facing now, the present.
So I want to get to at some point, you know, how can we really begin to change this dialogue? What are
Mm.
the ideas that we have? And people in the chat, everyone watching, I want you to share your ideas as well. And hopefully we're going to get to that. But before we do, I don't think we're saying something new, right? I don't think we're talking about something that people don't know about, right? But what is the barrier, do you think, that stops us from actually changing our inner dialogue, right? Because sometimes we self-sabotage and we know that we're self-sabotaging,
Mm.
but we still do it. So what is it you think that makes it so challenging for us to actually switch
I
our inner
think that
dialogue and improve it so that we can have better results?
I think that sometimes we just assume that is the way we are, and there is no room
True.
for changing. And like, we used to this, and like, I'm like this, so I'm not gonna change. Of like, after losing a battle, for example, after a loss, we know that we're gonna be mean to ourselves inside of us, and it's like, oh, there we go, there it comes again. And I feel like we get to is certain situations of like, we get used to it. You know what I mean?
And there's
And
two elements to that. Just to add
yeah.
to that before you add your next point, right?
Hmm.
There's the element of yes, it's a habit. We got
Yeah.
used to that. But if you think neurologically as well,
Hmm.
when you develop a new habit, you like develop a connection, right?
Hmm.
And the more you practice, the more that connection gets denser and denser in your brain. So it's actually a biological thing as well,
Hmm.
right? And so all the patterns that you've practiced, like your neural pathways are very dense
Yeah.
when it comes to that. So then compare that to creating a new pathway. It's like this is going to win every day of the week.
Hmm.
So not only is it a habitual thing, like you're saying, but there's also a biological basis
Yeah.
for finding it difficult to switch. But yeah, go ahead.
And what makes it so difficult as well, I feel like, is something that only you can do. Only you can do. Like, you can get some advice from people, and and talk it out sometimes. But at the end, it's a problem that it happens inside your head, and only you can change from maybe advice that you got, videos that you have seen. But it's not like something physical that someone else can help you and say like, let me
Yep.
help you with this. There you go. Boom. And that's why it makes it so difficult as well, I feel.
Bro, I could not agree more. I could not agree anymore. Like 100%. Like ain't nobody can do it for you.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes like there's an aspect of pursuing the goal that is like can be a bit lonely because there's no
Hmm.
like you it's you and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you and you, and that's where the change happens. And sometimes that's why like some people talk about how it's good sometimes to be alone, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it's good to, because then that's where you alone is where you make those adaptation. Like you need people for the inspiration, then you need to go away and actually re kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of recode, reprogram your mind.
Hmm.
Comment from Abby saying, fear of failure can keep you doing the same thing, the perception of others, being in your comfort zone, all of that, absolutely. And yeah, shout out to Abu Bakr as well. So
And and there
tell
is
me.
this thing as well of like, if we get used to this fight inside of us, why would I change it? If I'm used to this, what are the benefits out of it?
Mm,
Why
Safety.
why would I change something that I know is bad for me, but I'm used to it already?
And that's exactly why Jim Rohn says people change for one of two reasons, or for
Mhm.
two reasons: inspiration or desperation. Either, wow, I've seen something that's so amazing. Like, did you see how Usain Bolt just won that Olympic? I have to do something. Like, I'm going to train every day. I'm going to, I'm going to go for it. Like, I can do it. I can do it. I know I can do it. Right?
Mhm.
Inspiration or desperation, where it's
Mhm.
like, do you know what? Damn, I'm broke. I've written this script. I need it to work out. Like, I've got my dog. I've got even like give my dog away just to get some money to actually try and keep myself going. Like, I need my script to work out. And I'm offering my script to this company, and they're telling me that they're going to get another actor to play that main character. And like, no,
Mm.
I can't. No, I have to. Desperation. Sylvester Stallone with Rocky, right? So people make changes for one or two reasons: inspiration or desperation. And I find that to be true, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hard to get inspired. But and that's why sometimes they say, like, if you want to take the island, imagine you're an army coming onto an island.
Mhm.
If you want to take the island and you just arrive, burn your boats. That's what
Why?
Tony Robbins says: burn your boats, because then there's no way back. Because
Ah.
now, by burning your boats, you put yourself in a desperate situation,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So yeah, but yeah, comfort zone.
Yeah.
We want to be safe. We want to be, but at the end of the
And
day, we also feel the tension between, like, in my head, I see myself being like speaking to people. I see myself being a pilot. I see myself doing this. I can see myself doing that job in my head. And there's like this tension. So at the same time, there's the idea of holding on to a comfort zone. At the same time, there's also this tension between what I want to be and what I am, and the
yeah.
difference between the two, you know?
And it's really funny to compare like how people talk to themselves inside of their head. And I think I shared this thing last week of like before the age of 15 years old, I never had this voice inside my head. So it was a completely new thing for me.
Mm,
And I started to like create these like personal judgments, and like I was getting afraid for small things. It was a completely new thing for me. I had no experience. Um, and I felt like a different person, in a way.
mhm,
And it was it's funny to compare how it used to be then and how it used to it and how it is now.
mhm.
And if this is a question for you, T, and for the people in the chat, in 2 or 3 words, how would you define your inner dialogue?
Okay, that's a good question. And I was hoping to go here actually, and start giving a bit examples of the inner dialogues that we have, right?
Hmm.
Because you can't change something if you can't recognize it, so you have to recognize it first. So I like where you're going. I would say, like, there's multiple facets to my inner dialogue, right? Um, and let me preface it by saying this,
Hmm.
and this will give you an idea of what my inner dialogue is. So, um, there's this conversation, I think it's with Tom Bilyeu on Impact Theory.
Hmm.
And he's having a conversation with somebody, and they're talking about the three things that successful people have, right? One is supreme confidence. Two is almost crippling, crippling insecurity, right? And then 3 is something like, is it like a work ethic or consistency or something like that, right?
Mhm.
I can't remember the third one. But I say that to say my inner dialogue is kind of, it's got multiple facets. On one
Yeah.
hand, I'm like, there's something special about me. Like, look at them, they're not like me. They can't be like me. Ain't nobody like me. Like, I got this. Like, bro, like when I can do that. And then there's the other side that's like, man, you don't even measure up. Like, you're not even that great. You're lazy. You're bro. I've got both sides,
Mhm.
right? And um that's why you're surprised when I say to you, I can be the most lazy person in the world,
Yeah.
right? Because you're like,
Yeah.
how does that make sense? Like, I know you, D. Like, I've seen your work ethic. Like, I hear you. The amount of projects you're doing, the amount of things you're like actually progressing in is not something a lazy person does.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I've got both. I've got supreme confidence, according to my own description, and I've got
Mhm.
crippling insecurity. And in that case, it's the crippling insecurity that makes me work
Mm.
some as hard as I do, and I still don't feel I work hard enough, right? But it's that idea that I can be really, really lazy. So I have to kind of out work to overcome that, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's multiple sides to my inner dialogue. What about yourself? How would you, and this is a chance for introspection, right? Because again, this is the only equipment we're going to get. And if we never really dissect what our equipment is doing, and I'm aware, here's the thing, your inner dialogue is not you. My cup is not me. But the very fact that I can say my cup means it's not me, it's my, belongs to me. And sometimes we can attach ourselves so much to these things that we're scared to actually discuss it. We're scared to talk about it, to reveal it, but it's not you. It's yours. It's your inner dialogue. It's not you. And
Mhm.
that's why you can change it, right? Because it's not you. So you can step back from it and have a look from a distance and like, huh, what does my inner dialogue normally do?
Mhm.
Is that a benefit or is that a hindrance? Okay, how do I need to change it? Do I need to adjust it a little bit, my inner dialogue, so that I can get more out of it? You know, and I enjoy taking a step back from myself to actually discuss that. So,
Mhm.
same question back to you, and I invite everyone in the chat as well to kind of have that moment of introspection. And shout out to Kamar. Good afternoon to you, sir. Um, Mo, tell me, what's your inner dialogue like?
Um, so you mentioned there is different phases, right? And
Hmm.
I feel like we all have exactly or a similar thing. I'm no different. And for me, I do have a phase of like I'm very judgmental. You say like you're not doing enough. Um, and I tend to realize quite late how good I am in something. If I give you an example, for example, I injured my knee, and I went from being able to do whatever I wanted physically to not being able to walk. So it took me this injury took me to realize how capable and how good I was in all the things that I was able to do. And and it can be good a way of like saying, oh, but that's because you work really hard, which bring me to push myself harder, etc. But not being able to realize how good I am right now in the moment, um, brings to other situations that would not benefit myself. And
Right. If you don't realize how good you are, how can you maximize
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what you have?
And yeah, that was a way of what you said, me stepping back, stepping outside of myself, and analyzing what happened to me, how I deal with the situation, what kind of thoughts were going through my head when I was in that situation,
Mhm.
and and it's just yeah,
What
that's
kind
what
of thoughts
therefore.
were going through your head in that situation?
Um, on my injury, for example, it was.
Mhm.
I mean, when you when you think about it, it sounds so stupid. But when I got injured, I remember thinking of like, how could you get injured so easily? You have done this movement thousands of times, and how dare you getting injured so easily? Why are you so weak, for example? Those kind of thoughts. Um, but when you think about it later, it's like, man, that is not helpful. That is not helping with the situation that you have right now. Because first, anyone can get injured. Injury can happen anytime. You can do you can do every prevention that you want, and have the best equipment and still get injured. Um, so yeah,
And
that's an example.
and here's where I might begin to challenge a little bit
Mm,
and push back a little bit because yeah, that's how we get the most out of the conversation. I agree. You could do
mhm,
everything preventative and still get injured,
mhm,
but that's not really the question that matters. The question is, did you do everything preventative and still get injured? Because for me, according to my inner dialogue,
mhm,
it doesn't matter that, well, you could have, yeah, you could do everything preventative and still get injured. Yeah, but that's not the situation I'm in. I know that I didn't do A, B, and C.
mm,
Therefore, I will be a lot harder on myself. But if I know, do you know what? I did everything I knew to prevent and it still happened.
mm,
My question is going to be, what is it that I didn't know?
mm,
Because clearly I didn't do everything to prevent it, right? If I did, I wouldn't be in this situation. So it's
yeah,
just that I didn't know of this.
mm,
So then I want to know of this now so that I can like prevent it from happening again. I couldn't prevent it from happening the first time, but I can definitely try and prevent it from happening the second time.
mm,
Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
What do you
That's
make of
a
that?
no. That's very helpful as well because you basically using the situation that just happened as an experience so that you make sure that doesn't happen in the future again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, and basically with all of this, we are first recognizing what type of inner dialogue we have because sometimes it can be like too positive or too negative. Um,
Tell
in
me
my
more
case,
about that.
so if it's too positive, I mean, we all know that if it's too negative, we all assume that it's toxic.
Mhm.
Um, but if it's too positive, it can be really toxic as well because by any extreme, it means you're not being realistic with the situation.
Mhm.
And if I say, for example, it doesn't matter what I do, I deserve to be loved by the people around me. Uh, I me personally, I do not agree with that. I feel like there are things that you should do in order to be loved with the people around you. That's just an and if you're not being able to stay centered in a way of like you're not being too negative, too too positive, um, it's not gonna lead you to a situation that would help you in a way.
And here's, just to take that forward a little bit, and then I want to get into, the different things that we can do to begin to shift our inner dialogue so that we can improve our performance and throw some ideas out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think, how do you determine that it's too positive, too negative? I think this is where sometimes we have to start looking at the result, right? So I come back to this story, but it's really shaped my life. That's why it's like, like how well, maybe this is a bit of a controversial topic, but there was like BC, before Christ, and then there was like after Christ, because it was such a significant event, right? To me, there is like before living in my car and after living in my car.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
my time and mindset and development is kind of really separated between those two, right? And what led me to that point is thinking, okay, cool. How do I want to become a pilot? I want to become a pilot. Okay, I need to save some money. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to, like, this is the information I'm feeding myself. I said to myself, but wait, you had a trial flight in 2015. Since then, you've not done anything. Okay, so quit lying to yourself, because whatever you've been doing is not working. And that's when I was like, okay, do you know what? People who are comfortable have got no reason to move. If I'm comfortable in this chair, I'll stay here forever. But if now I need to pee, there's something in my seat, I'm going to have to move. There's no choice. So people who are comfortable have no reason to move. People who are uncomfortable have no choice but to move. So that's when I realized I need to make myself so uncomfortable that I need to change something. Because everything I've been doing up until now ain't working. So I think that's where sometimes we have to be honest and actually face the result and stop making it sound good, and just face the truth and be like, do you know what? Okay, cool. Every time I go to an interview, this is how I prepare. This is what I say to myself. And the truth is, that's not working. Right? How do I know? Because every interview I've been to, most of the time I'm not passing. All right, cool. So I need to shift my inner dialogue, right? Yeah. Every time I go to a girl, I try to ask for a number, it's not working. So I need to go back, shift my inner dialogue, right? Maybe I'm approaching the wrong people. Maybe I'm approaching at the wrong time. Maybe I'm approaching the wrong place. Yeah, here I am in a dark alleyway at night, 11 p.m. I see a girl and I'll try to get her number and she's afraid for her safety, right? So it's like, no, I need to actually accept the result. Go back and say, okay, cool. There needs to be a change here, right? Every time I have a speech to deliver, I go through the same process again, the same process, the same inner dialogue. It's like, okay, that caused my speech to not be as good as it could be. Okay, cool. So I need to change something, right? So I think for me, it's very important to accept the result, not to fight it, not to explain it away. Just accept the result. This is the result I got.
Yeah.
And then that result tells me what I need to do. And, so when it came to my dream of becoming a pilot, I looked at my result and I was like, 0 progress in the last 6 years. That's when I was like, okay, let's change something. And everyone was like, what are you doing? Don't do it. You're putting yourself in danger. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing that. I'm like, I know, but I have to. Right. And that still continues now, you know, and I try to keep myself in that position of discomfort.
Mm.
um but yeah, any thoughts on that? And then let's talk about, how do you then begin to shift your inner dialogue? How do you begin to actually refine it?
Yeah, I something that I find it interesting is like um, something that helped me at least was if you have someone around you, a family member, a friend that you truly trust, and that you know he's gonna that person is wants the best for you, and you know it's gonna be honest. You know it's gonna be honest. Um, I like to do this exercise of like, first I would define myself truly how I think I am. Not of like physical appearance of anything like that, but like how would I define myself? Do I work too hard? Am I kind to other people? Do I empathize with other people? Am I too emotional, etc., like that? And then I would ask that friend, that family member, to do exactly the same, to truly define me, how I am as a person, in a way of like how they see me, in a way. And that helps me, at least, like comparing those two definitions help me and put things in perspective. Because in my for me, for example, I had this idea that I wasn't working hard enough. But then I asked this family member of mine, and he said, I think you're being too hard on yourself. And I was like, oh wow, I never actually thought about that, you know? And that was a good way of realizing, it's a good way of realizing things.
I'm going to take your idea and challenge it slightly and refine it, right?
Go on.
I love the idea of asking someone else's perspective and then
Mm-hmm.
comparing the two. Because
Mm,
what you're doing there so importantly is you're taking a step back
mm-hmm.
to have a bird's eye view, right, on the situation, which I think is really valuable, you know, and really worth it. Where I think people should be careful is be mindful of who's speaking, right? Because listen, Jim Rohn has this idea, and if you look up on YouTube, the diseases of attitude, it's a really good speech. The Diseases of Attitude by Jim Rohn. Rohn spelled Rohn. Really good speech. One of the things he talks about is, he says, if you're having a coffee, right,
Mm-hmm.
and your enemy puts sugar in your coffee and you drink it, what will happen?
Oof.
You're drinking coffee, your enemy just adds some sugar into your coffee, you drink it, what will happen?
Um, I will not drink it.
No, your enemy just slips some sugar and you
Yeah.
do drink it. What will
Oh,
happen to you?
uh, too sugary coffee, maybe? Too
Well,
sweet?
no, they just put the right amount,
Oh, then
right? Y-
then it's perfect.
Then it's perfect, right? What happens if, even by accident, your best friend slips a bit of like poison by accident? They just
Mm,
mistook which one was which. By accident, they put poison in your coffee.
mm.
What will happen to you?
I will die if I drink it.
Right. So he makes the point and he delivers it so good. You need to hear him tell it because it's so good. Um, but that's the idea, right? You
Mm,
can trust them. They can be really there for you. But if they, without knowing, slip the wrong idea,
mm,
it could affect your future in a way that they didn't intend. So
mm,
that's why it's important to look at the people who you want to be like. If you want to be a world-class sprinter, take advice from a world-class sprinter, right? Because your school friends might tell you you're working too hard. But if you follow your school friends, you're going to end up with the results that your school friends have. But if you ask the world-class sprinter, what do you think about how I'm working? They say, well, you're working too hard in these areas, so you need to pull that back and you need to focus on this because this is more, oh, okay, so I'm not working hard enough here and I'm working too, okay, cool, got it, right? Because you're trying to emulate what they've got. Les Brown says success leaves crumbs. And this is why I love watching documentaries, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, McGregor, Conor McGregor, anything, Steph Curry, anything I can watch, Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, anything I can watch, because I'm like, they're going to leave crumbs, right? And if I want to be on their level, like that's why I watch all these, you know, pilots as well, because I want to follow in their footsteps, right? So it's very important to know who is giving you advice and what kind of advice they're giving you, and what kind of reflection they're giving you, right? So I would rather Cristiano Ronaldo tells me how hard he thinks I'm working versus my colleagues.
Yeah, get it.
Because here's the thing, you want to know about my inner dialogue? I'll be honest with you. I'll be straightforward with you. I'm going to release information, exclusive information about myself on this podcast and make myself vulnerable. I don't want to be average. I want to be exceptional. That's what, like, when I watch Kobe, when I watch Michael Jordan, there's a part, like, I didn't make myself like this. There's a part of me that goes, oh, I need to get there, right? And so I can't afford to listen to somebody who tells me, oh yeah, like you need to relax, and because I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I'm trying to achieve. So you have to know what you're trying to achieve, right? And we're all built differently. Not everyone's supposed to be a soldier.
Yeah.
Not everyone's supposed to be an electrician. Not everyone's supposed to be a plumber. Not everyone's supposed to be a builder. Not everyone's supposed to be an engineer. Not like, you know what fulfills you. Anyways, I'm going on a bit of a rant. Abby asks, or she says, do you know any female success stories or documentaries to watch, D? Well, the first thing, Abby, I told you, is the pilot, the female pilot who's got no arms. Can you tell me, what would your inner dialogue be if you were a female pilot with no arms? Not only are there not that many female pilots in the world anyway, on top of that, you ain't got no arms.
Yeah. Imagine, yeah, I imagine trying to become a pilot with no arms. It's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing I love about like switching your inner dialogue is you can be in the same year and be a new you. Like you can be in exactly the same circumstances. You know, like when you get an idea, bam, right? When you get an idea, like a light bulb moment, I know what I should do, right? Nothing has changed in your world, but suddenly you have an enthusiasm, you have a passion, you have an energy, right?
Yeah.
You don't need things to change for you. And that's the one thing I try to convince people. Like, I don't have money for flying. Like, you don't need that to change. Like, that's not the priority. What needs to change is in here. And if you change in here, bam, like you've got a new lease on life, you know? Yeah. So anything you want to say to that? And then I want to share with you some of the thoughts I had on how you can shift your inner dialogue.
Please do that.
In the chat as well, if you have ideas, how do you think you can shift your inner dialogue so you can improve your results? So one of the things I would say is to reference David Goggins,
Mhm.
he would say there's so I wake up in the morning, right? And usually, unless like Instagram catches me or YouTube Shorts catches me, and boy, they are demonic. Like they just want to grab your attention. They show you just the right thumbnail, and you're like, ah, it's a quick shorts. Let me just see what that's about. Look at that
Don't
person
blame them,
hanging.
bro.
You're like, look at that thumbnail. Look at that person like upside down hovering in the air. Let me just quickly find out what they're doing. And then before you know it, 2 hours later. But if I can escape that, usually I'm like listening to something motivational, and I try to listen to the same motivational speeches over and over again. Because again, I want it to change my inner dialogue,
Mm.
right? Anyways, I listened to David Goggins, and he's talking about sometimes he's on a 200-mile run, right? Bear in mind,
Crazy.
a marathon is 26 miles. He's on a 200-mile run,
Crazy.
and his body's giving up, and this pain and that pain and blisters here. And he just thinks, what if? Because our inner dialogue usually go, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I can't make it. I can't. Oh, I'm not confident enough, so I can't. Oh,
Mm.
I'm not healthy enough, so I can't. Oh, I don't have arms, so I can't. Oh, I'm too tired, so I can't. Oh, I don't have enough money, so I can't. Right? Instead of that, why not experiment with what if? What if? What if I could make it to the end of this race?
Mm.
What if I could achieve it without ever having had the money? What if? What if I could still deliver a good speech without feeling confident? What if?
Mm.
What if? Just asking what if, he says, he can just feel a change, a shift in his body. Just like, what if? Right? So that's one of the ways that I think of when it comes to like shifting your inner dialogue is switching from the conclusion to being curious.
Mm.
Right? Oh, no, that's too much to do. Okay. What if I could get it done?
Mm.
Right? So I think that that's a really powerful tool. The other thing that I sometimes use is, have you ever sometimes, you know, we watch a movie, we watch something, you watch Superman, right?
Mm.
And you see
Yep.
him come through, save people, and you're like, after you watch that movie, your chest puffs out a little bit more, like you're like, actually, maybe I want to save somebody, you know, kind of thing. And what occurs to me then is that sometimes we can borrow, right? Because now we're experimenting, we're stepping outside of our norm, and sometimes we need to borrow from others, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
when I go to the gym, I usually listen to this. There's a this guy called CT Fletcher. Do you know him?
No.
Oh, so basically, he used to be like a bicep curl champion. He used to be a bench press champion. He's got like a huge YouTube channel. He's got a gym as well. And yeah, he's got a very recognizable voice. And he did this video with a guy who calls himself the Hulk, right? The Hulk. And the Hulk was in that video bench pressing 4 plates on each side, right? Weight plates. So that's
Mm.
what 20 or 25 kgs times 4. So at least let's say it's 20 kgs. So it's 80, 160 kgs, right? And he's just going boom, boom, like it's nothing, right? That's warm up,
Crazy.
right? Anyways, like man, and the way it starts, it's like CT Fletcher's like, if ever you were wondering what would happen if Superman met the Hulk, well, now you're gonna see it. And then he's like talking and just hyping, right? And I listen to that and I'm like, boom, I'm feeling like the Hulk. Let's
Mm.
go. So every time I want to go to the gym, want to work real hard, that's what I put on. Doesn't matter if I'm tired. Doesn't matter if I'm like, oh, as soon as I put that on, I kind of internalize that voice. It becomes my inner dialogue,
Mm.
which then boosts my performance. So that's another way I think we can also kind of attempt to shift our inner dialogue.
I,
Thoughts?
re- I really, I really, I really like what you said, because I do feel this thing quite a lot. When you said that you can borrow someone else passion or like the motivation a little bit, because I do have this feeling, and I'm sure a lot of people as well, when you see like a documentary of like Free Solo or like uh, 13 Peaks or something like that, like wow,
14 peaks.
14. Sorry, I'm taking away one
You're
peak.
taking one.
But it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do something great as well. You know, I feel like
Right,
it. Let's go.
right,
You know,
right.
and and it does help, and it's good to feel like you're actually not alone. Like in your head, you might feel sometimes, I'm alone. I mean, I'm alone, but there are actually a lot of tools around you, people that can give you advice, being getting inspiration from someone else, um, and that's like a really good feeling, I feel.
Yeah, 100%. And remember, like, and this is a reminder to myself as much as it is me sharing with, with you and whoever's watching. It's like you're trying to build a new, like, neural pathway. You're trying to
Mm,
build a new connection in your brain, and it takes
mhm,
time, right? It takes repetition to actually really adjust your like inner dialogue,
mm,
right? And so to go with that, another thing, even without the music, without the that borrowing, you can just say to yourself, all right, cool, I'm not confident, I know that.
mhm,
Okay, cool, but what would somebody confident say right now?
mm, mhm,
And do you know what, for 1 minute, for 30 seconds, I'm just going to pretend to be the most confident person in the world.
mm,
Like, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to experiment,
mhm.
and I think in doing that, again, we can kind of free ourselves and let go and actually try something different. And then we might try and be like, oh, that was exciting, I want to try again. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember back in 2016, right? I used to attend this church, and and I've always loved singing, right? I've always loved singing, but never really done much with it. I've
Oh,
never
prove
really
it.
focused and trained. Nah. There's videos on me on Instagram from like 2020 where I was singing and playing the guitar. So find it. Good luck. But there was this like moment where they were just like, okay, cool. Well, we've got like the usual choir, but we're going to try and get like a youth choir kind of thing,
Mm,
just for one special kind of service, right?
mhm,
And yeah, so I went from really never singing, like usually singing in the shower, singing like by myself, to now singing in front of hundreds of people,
amazing.
right? But one thing I told myself is there's no room for holding back. So as soon as I held that microphone, it was like whatever I'm feeling, at the moment I open my mouth, it's go, go, go. Like there's no room. Like that yes, I know I have that insecurity, but right now it's time to work.
Mhm,
And the thing that taught me that is years ago, I never really used to watch X Factor, but I've watched this episode of X Factor. And there was this guy, he used to work in Asda. And he got to like the semis or whatever, anyways, the part on TV. And he was like, yeah, I'm feeling a bit nervous. And yeah, so blah, 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 tells his story. They do the interview before. And he's like, good luck. Thank you. And he comes out on stage, is like, whoa, like he sings it all out, like beautifully, with passion, performance, everything all comes out, and the audience are like, wow, that's amazing, that's incredible. And I go, wait,
the same guy.
you you were nervous, you were shaking, and you had a great performance. Nervous and shaking equals great performance. Doesn't make sense.
Mm.
And that's where I realize you can be nervous, but it doesn't mean that you will have to perform poorly. And that's what we do sometimes with the inner dialogue, where we think, oh, I'm nervous, so I'm going to do badly. But it doesn't mean that.
Mm.
You could be nervous and still, and if you speak to people, they will say, yeah, there's still some level of nerves, even after years of doing it, but it doesn't affect my performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it's about decoupling where we are, how, like, decoupling our analysis of ourselves and the result we think we're going to have.
Mm.
I don't have the experience, so I don't think I'll get the job. No, you could not have the experience and still get the job.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? I don't have the money, so I can't achieve the dream. No, you could not have the money and still achieve the dream.
Mm.
But we couple our truthful analysis with this result, and it doesn't always go together.
Mm.
I don't know how I afforded my private pilot's license, to be honest. I still can't afford it.
Is it legal?
Yes.
In a
And
legal way? Okay.
yes. And I still can't even afford to give out a scholarship. And yet here I am
Hmm.
giving away a scholarship. I can't afford it. Just because you can't afford it doesn't mean you can't do it. And I know it sounds crazy, but we see evidence of it everywhere, you know, if we look for it. If we look for it. So yeah, I think it's important to be aware of our self-dialogue and then to experiment. Yeah. And this
Yeah.
week I've been experimenting. I won't tell you because it's a secret. But I've been experimenting with basically like just asking myself, okay, if you were super confident in this area, what would you do? And like just kind of, and it makes me laugh every time I do it. It like makes me laugh because I'm like, ooh, yeah, I came up with quick ideas like off the top of my head. I'm like, whoa, that's smooth. And like it's just an adventure now. So yeah, I definitely need to do more of it. But I think it's a good idea to just play with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. I mean, if you see a lot of people in athletes and the most successful people in the world, they they will seem to be so confident, like so confident that they could do anything in their field. Like in basketball, for example, if you see LeBron James, you see
Mhm.
his energy is like, wow, look at that guy. He's gonna destroy every single player in the court. Or if you see, I don't know if it's the same with pilots, for example, but you can actually feel people like and see them like how confident they are, and aura around them, like and and that's the way that's something that we can work on, I believe. You know?
I think it's something we need to keep working on, you
Yeah.
know? And you might be confident in one area, but the top of one mountain is just the bottom of the next mountain,
Mm.
right? And there's this quote, and I heard it from Les Brown, and it goes like this, if I'm not butchering it. To grow, we have to take risks. We have to take risks to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And when we grow, we feel happy. Okay, actually, it goes like this: if you don't take risks, you can't grow.
Mm.
If you can't grow, you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, what else is there?
Mm.
Because we get positive feelings from moving towards a worthy goal. And that's why the top of one mountain is just the bottom of the next.
Mm.
Because now, once you're really confident in one area, it becomes boring after a while. And you
Yeah.
want to learn something new and you want to develop in a new area. And so there's a constant need to keep on reinventing yourself in order for you to continue having adventures in life, because it is an adventure to go into something that you are not as good at and attempt to develop. But I think in conclusion, one of the final points I'll make is to say, I think one of the toughest parts of switching our inner dialogue is because we know that the inner dialogue is telling us some truth, right? But I would argue that we can accept that truth. We can accept that truth. For example, I can't afford to become a pilot. All right, cool. I accept that. But it doesn't mean that it will stop me. Okay, so how can I go about it knowing that I can't afford it? And that's what led me to say, I need to film all my lessons and have it on YouTube. I need to start a new Instagram, share my story because I know I can't afford it. So that's how I need to do it, because I can't afford it, because I know people will help me, or I hope people will help me, So you can accept that truth without it limiting you. You can accept that you're not confident. Okay, cool. I'm not confident. All right. So how do I need to approach this opportunity so that I'm in the best possible position, knowing that I'm not a confident person? How can I approach it? Okay, cool. So now you're accepting that truth, but adjusting and coming up with a new pathway through it. So, Arnold, he had this thick accent, right? And then a huge bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia, right? And he was constantly told, like, you're too big to be an actor. You're too big. Your accent, you don't even sound properly American. We can hear your accent. It's too thick. It's too strong, right? But what does he say? When he did Conan the Barbarian, the director said, do you know what? If we didn't have that body, we would have had to build it. Because Conan the Barbarian needs to be a big character. And then when he did Terminator, the director said, if he didn't speak like a machine, I'll be back, it wouldn't have worked. Right? Sarah Connor, I'll be back. Like, if he didn't have that, it wouldn't have worked. And so the things that he was told, what his weaknesses, became an asset.
Crazy.
But that's because he didn't allow himself to conclude that because despite being to accent removal classes, despite, trying to lose weight, he's still big. He's still got the accent. He didn't conclude, oh, do you know what? I can never. He still kept on going. And what was his weaknesses? Then actually, in the right context, were strengths. So yeah, that's just my encouragement, first of all, to myself, because I need as much encouragement as I can possibly get, but also to you and to anyone else. You do have weaknesses. That's true. We're not running away from that. But don't conclude on your future based on your weaknesses, because even your weaknesses can become strengths. And I knew, I'm not like you, Mo. I'm a spender. I'm not a saver. I know that. So do you know what I decided? Spend as much as I can investing into aviation.
Beautiful.
Because I'm good at spending. So I'll spend in aviation. At least that's an investment. Do you know I'm good at spending? All right, cool. Buy stocks, buy crypto, because I'm good at spending. So I can do that. Which is actually technically another way of saving. Technically, you could look at it that way. But you can use even your weakness as your strength. So I'll leave you with that.
Beautiful. And it's something that we need to be analyzing and trying to improve our entire life, I believe,
100%.
And that's why it's so difficult trying to be as honest as possible with yourself, with different situations, with new environments, and it's your entire life. Because it's my first time being 26 years old. In a year will be my first time being
It's my
27.
first time being 25.
No, but you know what I mean. Like everything that
No,
I
I'm
do,
joking. I'm 33. But yeah, go on.
like
But you're right. You're absolutely right.
yeah. So even at the age of 60, like now, if I think at the age of 40, 50, I might think that I would have everything figured out and I would know how to. But I didn't know because it's a completely new experience,
It's
new
going to be the
environment.
first time you're 50.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a whole journey that is constantly
Yeah.
uh, trying to
It's an
get
adventure.
improvement. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you to everyone who's joined us. If you have enjoyed the episode, why don't you smash that like button? We're still waiting for that to get smashed. Pause. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Thoughts? Share your ideas, share your reflections, share your comments. Would love to see them. I usually respond to every single comment on the channel. So thank you for that. If you would like to, you can also follow us on the social medias. Mo is at steady_athlete on Instagram. So give him a follow. Check out the other content on the channel. If you like to watch more aviation related content, there's a ton of stuff to watch on my channel, and hopefully a new episode dropping this Thursday, which I'm working on. So I'm looking forward to that. Other news, we have the scholarship is in the selection process, and we have judges selection panel, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, I'm grateful to those people for being on the selection panel, and we are this close to actually shortlisting our interview candidates. So we're making progress on that, and I'm very excited to be making progress on that. Thank you to all of you for joining us. Abby, last chat entry says, thank you guys, or last two says, thank you guys for an inspiring episode. Thank you, Abby. Appreciate it. Also, I'm 20 and I feel like I'm going through a midlife crisis already. Well, if that's the internal dialogue you're going to have with yourself, then you are going through a midlife crisis. Or, we all constantly going through, a need for reinventing ourselves, and it's a lifelong pursuit and it's an adventure.
Yeah.
And I actually, I've learned to enjoy it. I've learned to appreciate it for what it is. So yeah, drop your comments, drop your thoughts in the comment section, and we'll be happy to respond. All right, Mr. Mo, well, that's been a great chat. It feels like in this format, we probably won't get to do Dreams Workshop, and I know you've got a wedding to go to. But we'll have some chat about that. How did you guys, if you're watching this and you've watched the episode before, how did you feel with us not going through Dreams Workshop or not going through accountability time, etc., kind of switching up the format and getting straight down to business? How did you find it? Let us know. Your feedback is much appreciated. All right, Mo. Well, it was interesting. Says Abby.
Was straight to
very,
business.
not very inspiring. So I look forward to finding out what you mean by interesting. Hopefully, interesting in a good way. Variety is good. Yeah. All right, Mo. Well, enjoy your wedding, man, and
Thank you.
enjoy dance, and yeah.
Is
Hopefully,
they
I'll get an invite if it's you get married, because I'll be very upset if you came
is
back next week with a wedding ring and I wasn't invited.
is a is a Colombian friend of mine, so I'm expecting a lot of salsa. See, if
Colombiano.
not, I will be really really upset if there is not enough salsa.
Fantastic. Also, importantly, next week, won't be live. We might pre-record and release it on Saturday. That's because next week we're going to be going to a barbecue. We're flying into a barbecue, actually, Young Air Pilots barbecue. So if anyone watches and is going to be attending, let us know. It would be great to see you there. So Mr. Mo will be joining us, Abby will be joining us, and Chris, who's not a stranger to my YouTube channel, will also be joining us on the flight. We're going to fly there together. So yeah, hopefully if any of you are turning up, look forward to seeing you. All right. Well, with that said, until next time, it's Future Pilot 901, reminding you to live your dreams.
And steady athlete to enjoy the process.
Peace.